Okay, welcome everyone to this inaugural event. In the words of Abraham Lincoln, persuade your neighbors to compromise whenever you can. Point out to them how the nominal winner is often the real loser in fees, expenses, and wastes of time. As a peacemaker, the lawyer has a superior opportunity to be a good man. There will be business enough. A very good morning to all present here. We welcome all of our participants, honourable judges of the competition, our honourable chief advisor, and advisors of the Global Advisory Board. MediateGuru is highly elated to organise its first virtual international mediation competition. I, Phoebe Moore, will be your host for today. We offer a very warm welcome to our venerated chief guest, Amanda J. Lee. The courts should not be places where resolution of disputes begin. They should be places where disputes end after alternative methods of resolving them have been considered and tried. Following the sacraments of the culture, we would like to start this auspicious event by Saraswati Bandana, a social initiative led by members across the globe. The aim of the organisation is to build a bridge using which more law students can opt for ADR methods. MediateGuru is creating a social awareness campaign for showcasing mediation as a future of alternative dispute resolution, and to provide ease to the judiciary as well as pockets of general litigants. We believe that strong negotiation and mediation skills can help people in all industries to resolve conflicts in their workplace, in their home, and in their personal life. The ability to negotiate can change how you perceive conflict and how you deal with it. Additionally, we believe that taking things online is a new must, and we will support and encourage students in taking this step. The International Mediation Competition is a unique opportunity for students to learn and practice mediation and negotiation skills through role-playing of mediation problems drafted by experienced mediators and practitioners. The competition convenes students and distinguished ADR professionals from around the globe, providing exceptional networking opportunities. It brings me immense pleasure in introducing our esteemed guest for the session, Amanda J. Lee. Amanda J. Lee is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. She is dual qualified and serves as a director of Arbitral Women, a member of the Global Advisory Board of the International Centre for Dispute Resolution, and an ambassador for racial equality for arbitration lawyers. Her ADR experience includes advising in respect of matters resolved via mediation, international and domestic arbitration, expert determination, construction, adjudication, and the Financial Ombudsman Service. Amanda, I'd like to invite you now to address the students and enlighten us all with your experience.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for the kind introduction. I have the pleasure of delivering the welcome address at MediateGuru's Inaugural International Mediation Competition. I'm very grateful to Param, to Phoebe, and the MediateGuru team for the kind invitation. I'm proud to serve as a member of MediateGuru's Advisory Board. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to share a few thoughts, hopefully inspiring thoughts, with you all this morning. Now, I'm going to try and share some slides, and we'll see how inspiring the slides are going to be. All right. Magicians perform impossible feats, pulling rabbits from hats, making elephants disappear, and escaping from chains while underwater. And yet, the skills required to be a successful magician are very similar to those required to be a successful mediator. Join me today as I explore how the tools of a magician's trade can help you to become a better mediator and succeed in MediateGuru's International Mediation Competition. Magic and international dispute resolution make unlikely bedfellows, and yet once upon a time, magic played a small but important part in preventing an international uprising. Back in 1856, in the face of growing discontent with the French rule of Algeria, Napoleon III found himself in need of a secret weapon. Algerian magicians known as marabouts were using trickery to stir up anti-French sentiment, using their stagecraft to evidence the supposed displeasure of Allah with French leadership and to control their tribes. Enter Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin. His mission was simple: to suppress any potential Marabout-inspired rebellion by demonstrating the superiority of French magic. Robert Houdin, widely acknowledged as the father of modern magic, gave a number of performances before chieftains in Algeria. On such occasions, he performed one of his most famous tricks, the light and heavy chest. Robert Houdin would invite a strong volunteer to lift a small wooden box with metal handles. The volunteer, usually a burly man, would oblige, following which Robert Houdin would announce that he would now use his magic to deprive the volunteer of his strength. The unfortunate volunteer would attempt to lift the box again, this time without success. The small box was rendered completely immovable, leaving the volunteer baffled by his sudden apparent weakness. Any attempt to move it by ripping the box apart would be met with a short, sharp electric shock. Now, I'll not ruin the trick for you completely, but for those who are intrigued to know how it was done, Robert Houdin was particularly interested in electromagnetism. Many performances later, Robert Houdin concluded his magical mission with a special performance for tribal chiefs, at which he caught a marked bullet fired by a rebel in his teeth. The audience was suitably impressed, and loyalty to France was affirmed without bloodshed. His job accomplished, Robert Houdin returned to France, where his contribution to diffusing the threat of rebellion, his contribution to dispute resolution, was warmly acknowledged. The message was subsequently spread far and wide across Algeria that Robert Houdin's supposed magical powers, like those of the Marabout, were simply the product of skill and training, not sorcery. So, although Robert Houdin, as a magical emissary of sorts of the French government, bore little resemblance to the neutral, independent, impartial mediator, sometimes all it takes to resolve a dispute is a little bit of magic. One of the most famous tricks in the history of magic was first performed by noted escapologist Harry Houdini. On January 7, 1918, an awestruck crowd gathered at New York's Hippodrome Theater to watch in astonishment as Houdini made a 10,000-pound elephant called Jenny vanish from a large cabinet. In practice as a mediator, from time to time, you too will inevitably find yourself in situations in which a large, seemingly immovable obstacle stands in the way of a positive outcome. There will be parties who obstinately refuse to participate fully and cooperatively in the mediation process, commercially attractive settlement offers that fall on deaf ears, and carefully constructed creative solutions that are cast aside without a second glance. Like Houdini, you will find yourself searching for a creative way to make your seemingly insurmountable obstacles, your metaphorical elephants, vanish. Now, Houdini guarded the secret of the vanishing elephant trick closely, threatening legal action against any who sought to copy his invention. However, although other magicians have managed to make elephants vanish, and many theories abound, Houdini's true method and the secrets behind this legendary trick remain lost to the sands of time. So, if we cannot copy Houdini's method to vanish our own imaginary elephants, what can we as mediators take from this trick? Well, on an optimistic note, Houdini's vanishing elephant demonstrates that nothing, however improbable, is impossible. With the right method, the right equipment, and the right timing, Houdini was able to remove a sizable pachyderm and present an illusion that has stood the test of time. As mediators, we owe it to the parties who trust us with their disputes to be able to help them to achieve the seemingly impossible once in a while. Like Houdini, we must never stop honing our practical skills and developing new techniques to enable us to help parties achieve desirable outcomes. Only by remaining open to unlikely solutions, by carefully honing our skills of negotiation and diplomacy, and by constantly working to elevate such skills, can we too perfect the dark art of elephant banishing. Earlier this year, we celebrated the centenary of one of the best-known magic tricks of all time, sawing a woman in half. And yes, it was usually a woman. The trick is usually attributed to P.T. Selbit, a British magician even, whose somewhat less catchy real name was Percy Thomas Tibbles. Selbit first performed the iconic trick for the public at the Finsbury Park Empire Theatre, London, on January 17, 1921, laboriously sawing through the box by hand. A great many different versions of this illusion exist, with different types of boxes and different types of blades. But the version that most people are familiar with was popularized by an American magician called Horace Golden, who patented a version of it. There's lots of lore involved in magic, as you can see. A woman is locked in a wooden box with her head and hands visible at the top and her feet visible at the bottom. The magician saws through the box, often with a suitably dramatic sounding buzzsaw, and dramatically pulls the two halves apart before putting the woman back together again and releasing her from the box unharmed. There is an important practical lesson for mediators to take from this illusion. Reconciliation is possible in even the most challenging of circumstances. Many mediations take place in the worst of times. In England and Wales, for example, mediation is widely used in the context of family disputes. Parties strive to resolve sensitive issues such as child custody arrangements and how family assets should be divided with the assistance of a mediator. Being able to bring the parties together, find mutually satisfactory solutions, and make them, if not whole, at least functional and capable of moving forward to accept their new reality, requires significant sensitivity and diplomacy. As mediators, it is our ability to listen and to empathize with the parties that can help us to bring them back together again in such challenging circumstances. Every story has two or sometimes more sides. It's not the job of the mediator to sympathize with the parties, but it is their job to listen and to empathize. Mindful that a successful settlement may deprive a party of their proverbial day in court, mediators should be mindful that the parties, not just their lawyers, often need to have their say in order to move forward. The value of the joint session and the opportunity to clear the air by speaking to each other, particularly in circumstances in which the parties may not have spoken since the outbreak of hostilities, should not be underestimated. One of the most valuable tools in the toolbox of both mediators and magicians is preparation. Proper preparation can mean the difference between a successful settlement and a frustrating temporary detente before litigation resumes. A mediation may last for a mere hour, half a day, a full day, or even far longer. But in order to maximize the benefit of their time with the parties, every mediator must approach mediation following a proper period of preparation and with a provisional plan in mind. That plan may take into account a wide variety of different factors. For example, the parties may have provided you with mediation position statements and supporting documents. And these documents may give you an insight into some of the issues in dispute. But more often than not, what is important and what really matters to the parties will come out on the day. After all, it's the job of the mediation advocate tasked with drafting such documents to persuade the other side, not the mediator. As mediator, you may have spoken to the parties separately and privately in advance of the mediation itself. You may even be armed with confidential briefings in which the parties will have shared information with you that they're presently unwilling to share with each other. All such information is valuable, providing the mediator with an insight into not just the dispute, but the character and motivation of the parties. So, never underestimate the value of preparation. After all, the importance of preparation is self-evident when considering a trick such as Houdini's iconic water torture cell escape. To perform the trick, Houdini's ankles were locked into stocks. He was then suspended from a brace and lowered headfirst into a glass-fronted tank overflowing with water. The brace was then secured to the top of the tank. Sounds a tad ominous, right? Well, Houdini was a master of preparation. His preparation was not limited to thoroughly preparing for and practicing his tricks, though. For example, in order to protect his act from imitation, and having noted the limited role played by obtaining a secret disclosing patent in discouraging imitators, Houdini established copyright in this new trick by performing it for an audience of one in London. He subsequently performed the water torture cell escape for the public for the first time on September 21st, 1912, at Circus Busch in Berlin. His preparations did not stop there, though. Houdini practiced holding his breath until he was able to do so comfortably for 4 minutes. He studied lock-picking to develop his legendary prowess with handcuffs and padlocks. He traveled with a replacement glass panel for the water torture cell, just in case it was necessary to break the glass in an emergency. He was also a master of self-promotion, jumping off bridges in restraints and being submerged in bodies of water in a box in order to generate publicity and ensure a packed theater for his performances. I do not recommend that any mediator try the same practices. But like the magician, the mediator succeeds or fails as a result of the quality of their preparation. Although preparation for the mediator is unlikely to mean the difference between life and death, it is preparation that may ultimately determine whether the mediation is a success or a failure. A well-prepared and determined mediator can ensure that the parties extract value from even an unsuccessful mediation, whether by narrowing the issues between them or otherwise laying the groundwork for a successful settlement shortly after the mediation concludes. So, always be prepared. At its heart, magic relies on a suspension of disbelief. We know that what we appear to be seeing cannot be possible, that we're being deceived, and yet we cannot look away. We want to believe. And to achieve this effect, the magician must persuade the audience to trust them, a skill that is perhaps even more important to the mediator. After all, the parties are putting their dispute in the hands of the mediator, and their trust in both the mediator and the power of the mediation process. Although their job is to deceive us, many magicians, particularly in the Victorian era and in the aftermath of the First and Second World Wars, made it their business to discredit mediums who sought to unfairly take advantage of those who were mourning their loved ones lost to war. Many of the techniques used by false mediums were similar to those used by magicians, and as such, magicians were well equipped to expose the tricks of the false medium's trade and to investigate spiritualism, in the same way as mediators are well placed to help the parties tackle some of their misconceptions about their disputes. Now, Houdini was a particularly enthusiastic debunker of false mediums, having regularly reproduced the supposed phenomena that they were prone to creating, tapping, phantom hands, bell ringing, and so on, in his shows. William Marriott, a British magician, published articles exposing the tools of the trade of false mediums and brought a catalogue containing the equipment of false mediums to public notice. Penn and Teller starred in a television series in which they set out to debunk frauds of a supernatural nature. This commitment to ousting the perpetrators of involuntary deception by those that we willingly permit to deceive us is commendable. For the mediator, though, it's often the reverse that applies. They must demonstrate that mediation, far from being a fraud, is in fact the real deal. Only by enlightening those who deceive themselves about the benefits and value of mediation can the mediator make converts of those parties who dismiss mediation as some sort of trick. The parties, having agreed to mediate, may be more or less invested in the process. Some will be complete cynics, dismissing the mediator as a self-interested charlatan, a snake oil seller whose message of mediation as panacea is nothing more or less than a thinly veiled money-making scheme. Others will be skeptics, persistent doubters who question the value of mediation and remain reluctant to place any value or faith in the mediator or their training. As mediator, trust is the key. What can you as mediator do to foster trust? Well, leadership development consultants Jack Zenger and Joseph Folkman identify 3 distinct elements to trust: positive relationships, good judgment and expertise, and consistency. By focusing on each of these 3 elements, the mediator can cultivate a relationship of trust and confidence with the parties. The mediator must first develop a positive relationship with the parties. Mediators must strive to create a safe space, a place of mutual understanding, an environment in which parties can feel comfortable beginning to let down their guard. Disputes frequently raise sensitive and private issues that the parties may be reluctant to properly reveal to the mediator, who, like the magician, is something of an unknown, a mysterious individual. The mediator must acknowledge such issues and seek to explore them. The mediator's time with the parties is necessarily limited, so it's up to the mediator to make the most of it. Every interaction between mediator and party, however small, may produce the key that will unlock the dispute. However, the quest for the key must not overshadow the need to really listen to the parties. A balance must be struck if the conflict is to be properly brought to a head and happily addressed. Secondly, the mediator must demonstrate their expertise and establish themselves as credible. It's often said that the mediation belongs to the parties, but the mediation process belongs to the mediator. The mediator's knowledge of the process and its potential may mean the difference between success and failure. The opening session provides the ideal opportunity for the mediator to establish their bona fides and demonstrate how their expertise can contribute to a successful outcome. First impressions really are everything. Lastly, consistency is a vital component of every relationship based on trust. The mediator will often begin the mediation by explaining their role, what they can do to help the parties, and what they cannot do. The mediator is not an adjudicator and must remain independent and impartial throughout. They must walk the talk and ensure that their conduct never crosses the line into advocacy or adjudication. One of the most dangerous tricks in the history of magic, the bullet catch, reminds us that magic, like life, can sometimes be unpredictable. Whatever precautions are taken or preparations made, sometimes things do not work out the way that we expect. The mediator, like the magician, must learn to expect the unexpected and take steps to mitigate against the risk of the dispute resolution process failing. Now, the bullet catch involves the magician appearing to catch a bullet fired from a gun, whether in their teeth, their hand, or otherwise. The first records of the trick date back to as early as 1586, when Jean Chassagnol described a performance in which a man caught bullets in his hands without injury. The account appears in his book, the French title of which translates as The Theatre of God's Judgments. Variations have been performed by magicians across the globe for centuries. The trick, which typically features real firearms, sometimes modified, is performed using a variety of different methods. In the same way as mediation is conducted using a variety of different methods. The danger, even in a controlled environment, is very real. And it's estimated that as many as 20 magicians may have died while performing this trick. Notably, the American magician Ching Ling Su lost his life during a performance in 1918 due to a malfunctioning gun. Many other magicians have been injured attempting it. Versions of the trick have been performed by Jean-Lucien Robert Houdin, Dorothy Dietrich, Paul Daniels, Penn and Teller, Chris Angel, David Blaine, and many more. Thankfully, for the average mediator, one of the greatest risks against which precautions must be taken is that of a party choosing to leave without notice, bringing the proceedings to a grinding halt. This is a risk that the mediator can easily guard against by seeking advance assurance from the parties that before leaving, they will notify the mediator and grant them a brief audience. Such a window of opportunity will frequently give the mediator sufficient time to persuade the departing party of their folly. Like the foolhardy magician who chooses to run the risk of sacrificing themselves on the altar of entertainment, the mediator can guard against the risk of failure by remembering that small things matter. When it comes to in-person mediation, something as simple as setting up the mediation room to include a round table rather than a square table can have a significant impact on the mood of the parties. Creating a more inclusive space in which the parties are less likely to feel as if they are gladiators entering an arena is one concrete step that mediators can take in order to begin to change the adversarial narrative. To become truly successful in any field, you must be passionate about it. And this sentiment applies to both mediation and magic. Both the mediator and the magician must believe wholeheartedly in the value of their craft, practicing it until they achieve something close to mastery. After all, pulling a rabbit out of a hat may be a cliche, but it's no mean feat. However, as the Doctor once said in the beloved British television show Doctor Who, passion fights, but reason wins. It's not enough to be passionate about mediation. Your passion will not help parties to resolve their disputes, although your passion and self-belief may help them to believe in the process. Your ability to reason to help them to approach matters logically and acknowledge the full range of potential consequences of failing to settle is perhaps your most valuable asset. It's easy for parties' positions to become entrenched over time. Litigation is, in general, a time-consuming and stressful process. The nature of litigation in common law systems in particular is adversarial. The parties are pitched against each other with communications and interactions between them and their legal advisors, often argumentative in tone, particularly as the trial date approaches. Tempers may flare as the parties, both united and divided in their firm resolve that their position is the stronger one, meet on the mediation battlefield and become deadlocked. Their passionate conviction in the supposed strength of their own positions may even lead them to ignore sound advice from their legal representatives. Enter the mediator as the voice of reason. Like the magician, who uses the power of direction, or some might say misdirection, to ensure that the audience focuses on what they need to focus on in order to give the magician the sufficient opportunity to get the rabbit into the hat in time for the big reveal. The mediator has the opportunity to ensure that the parties focus on the things that really matter. Every dispute raises a wide variety of issues, but all issues are not created equal. What really matters will differ in every dispute. By helping the parties to identify and focus on the key issues and preventing them from getting distracted by ancillary issues, the mediator can ensure that the parties, unlike Alice and the White Rabbit, do not end up down a rabbit hole lamenting the passing of time. Every moment of the mediation is valuable, and to continue the temporal theme, the mediator must help the parties to focus on the future, even if that requires them to first tackle issues relating to things that happened in the past or things that are happening in the present. Although, of course, if that doesn't work, then the mediator always has the option of pulling a rabbit out of their hat. No discussion of the tools of a magician's trade can be complete without a brief discourse on the apparent power of magicians to defy the laws of gravity. The development of the levitation illusion is commonly attributed to English magician John Neville Maskelyne, who put his considerable technical prowess to use, developing conjuring tricks and, perhaps more usefully, the penny-operated lock used on the pay toilet. Just think what he could have done to revolutionize the field of mediation. The illusion was essentially co-opted by American magician Harry Keller, who made it his own, billing it as the levitation of Princess Karnak. The trick involved Keller levitating his sleeping assistant off a couch. In order to demonstrate that she was not suspended, a hoop was moved back and forth along her body. Now, although the mediator does not have to do battle with the laws of gravity, what can you do today to elevate your performance as mediator above that of others? How will your thinking reach new heights in today's competition? Magic teaches us that nothing, however improbable, is impossible. Even the largest obstacles can be made to vanish with skill, training, and just a touch of creativity. It's the ability of the mediator to identify solutions that others cannot, to elevate their thinking and that of the parties to new heights, that is perhaps their greatest asset. Trust, as we know, is the watchword. Whether it's the trust that the audience places in the magician whose job it is to deceive them, or the trust that a mediator must earn from the parties. Two halves can become a whole, although in the context of a dispute, it's far easier to divide than it is to unite. And last but not least, always remember that preparation is the key, whether you're planning to catch a bullet in your teeth or lead the opening joint session of a mediation. So, we have spent the last 25 minutes or so talking about mediation and magic. By now, you're no doubt thinking, are we ever going to get to actually see a trick? Well, this deck of cards, this very jazzy deck of cards, belongs to my father. As you can see, this is a perfectly normal deck of cards. And these cards were a gift for my father's 21st birthday. This is the same deck that I used to use when I played card games as a child. I've borrowed them today to show you a small trick. As a mediator, your job is to get to the heart of the matter, to help the parties to achieve a breakthrough and resolve their dispute. A good mediator is the party's secret weapon. The ace in the pack, the ace of hearts. You see what I did there? Heart of the matter. Now, a good mediator will always be able to do something to get to the heart of the matter, to bring a potential solution to the surface. Now, this ace of hearts also has a habit of coming to the surface. That is where it always ends up, right at the top of the bag. Okay? All right, so let's test my ability to bring the heart of the matter to the surface. I like a challenge though, so let's make things a little bit more difficult by putting the card at the bottom of the pack, okay? So here goes. Trust me though, it moves fast, so let's have a quick look at the bottom of the pack. See? Yep, it's gone already. Okay, so has my solution surfaced? As mediator, have I been able to get to the heart of the matter? Have I been able to get the ace of hearts to come to the top of the pack? All right, here we are, the moment of truth. The ace of hearts. So there you go. I hope that you will all be able to sprinkle a little magic on your performances as mediator today. Thank you very much for listening, and I wish you all every success in today's competition.
Wow, Amanda, that was so exciting. Thank you so much for that unique and insightful presentation. We hope that participants have learned a great deal about the magic which can be found in mediation. It is said that all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them, and nothing is out of our reach if we set our eyes upon the goals. Going forward, the Chief Advisor of MediateGuru's Global Advisory Board, Dr. Ashi Deeman, will now address the gathering.
Good morning, honorable guest of honor, Ms. Amanda. Amanda J. Lee, founder of Careers in Arbitration and director of Arbitral Women, and all the
Founder of
judges and dear
Careers in
participants.
Arbitration and
I,
director of
Dr. Rashid
Arbitral
Man, am
Women,
selected
and
Chief
all the
Advisor of
judges and their
MediateGuru's Global
participants.
Advisory Board,
I, Dr.
extend a
Rashid
very
Man,
warm
as
welcome
selected Chief
to all of
Advisor of
you in the
MediateGuru's
first
Global
Virtual
Advisory
International
Board,
Mediation
extend a very
Competition
warm welcome
organized by
to all of you
MediateGuru.
in the first
I
Virtual
commend and
International
appreciate
Mediation
all the support
Competition
of our
organized by
advisors,
MediateGuru.
volunteers,
I
moderators, and
commend and
organizers in
appreciate all
making
the
the
support
project
of
into
our
reality.
advisors,
I feel
volunteers,
privileged to have
moderators,
our
and
Honorable Chief
organizers
Guest of
in
Honor,
making the
Ms.
project into
Amanda J.
reality.
Lee, and all
I feel
other
privileged
judges
to
with
have
us.
our Honorable Chief
I
Guest
take
of
the
Honor,
opportunity
Ms.
to
Amanda
declare
J.
the
Lee,
first Virtual
and all other
International
judges with
Mediation
us.
Competition open.
I take the
The
opportunity to
competition
declare the
offers a
first
great
Virtual
opportunity for
International Mediation
participants to
Competition open.
So some truly illuminating words there from Dr. Rashid Man. I'm sorry if some of you experienced a bit of an echo there. Now I'd like to welcome MediateGuru's National In Charge for Lebanon to say a few words.
Hi, Phoebe. I'm sorry for this problem. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Awesome. So good morning, everyone. Our honorable judges who have blessed us with their presence and took out very valuable time of your busy schedules. Our respected organizers for the first virtual international mediation competition organized by MediateGuru. Our dear moderators, supervisors, and our most valued participants in this competition. It's my privilege actually to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. So I am here today on behalf of the MediateGuru organization and the global supporting members, extending a very hearty vote of thanks to every person present here with us today or absent due to last-minute emergencies, and every person who have directly and indirectly contributed to make this competition happen. I heartily congratulate every participant for getting shortlisted. I extend my thanks to your active partaking in yesterday's training session that was conducted by Mrs. Kathleen, and of course to Mrs. Amanda for this magical introduction. We are truly humbled by your insightful contributions to this competition, and we are endlessly grateful. Before moving towards your respective rooms, I would like to share with you the two quotes I am thinking about today. The first one is, it's not the winning, but the participation, and it's not the triumph, but the struggle. And the second one is, it's not the will to win that makes you a winner, but the will to prepare to win which does. So today, our dear participants, you are here. The destination does matter, but it is the journey that is the most critical. So no matter what results you leave this competition with, you shall all be proud to having contributed to the mission of MediateGuru, which is spreading awareness among the public on the peaceful means of dispute resolution. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Phoebe.
Thank you, Sasha. It's always a pleasure hearing from you. Some really nice words there. Finally, I'd like to extend a vote of thanks to our chief guest, Amanda, once again, for being part of this event and making it so special. Thank you to the organizing team for working with us. So this would not have been possible without their hard work and dedication. Thank you to all the dignitaries and to the judges for sparing your precious time. And all of the participants are now requested to please be ready as the competition is about to begin. Please join your respective rooms as provided. Thank you once again, and I wish you all the best of luck. I'll see some of you in the room later.